Okay.
And the car got.
We are on. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next session of our weekly Your Body Sign Language series. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go on to the next part. This one is going to be a little bit of a messy subject because it's all about the elimination. Just now. So I don't know, but it's all about the sanitation system of our body. As you know, what goes in, it's got to come out. And if you think about your body like your house sewage system, when you go to the bathroom and you flush, what happens to it? Some of us have got septic tanks, so we won't go into the technical details about what happens, but you know that if you don't go regularly, you're in trouble. And this is what happens to us if we're not getting rid of it, and it's not doing us any good, it's doing us harm. So elimination of waste products is one of the most vital functions of a living organism. Because if we are not eliminating the waste products, they are staying in the system and causing massive infection and massive inflammation. If anybody knows of anybody who's experienced a burst appendix or, heaven forbid, a stab wound or something like that in the gut, you know that that is treated as a medical emergency because your risk of dying is incredibly high because of all the toxins that are released into our system. Cells live longer without nutrients than they can live in accumulated waste products. So if it's not coming out, it's backing up, causing problems. Our health as humans is dependent not only on the intake of proper nutrients, but also the efficient elimination of the waste. And the waste is everything that your body can't use. So when you have a nice piece of steak, your body's going to break it down into protein and vitamins and minerals, and whatever's left needs to get out. And that is where our elimination system comes in. Someone once said it is better to have a good set of bowels than brains. Not too sure who that was, but there's some wisdom over there. The most brilliant person does not escape incalculable misery with the simple precept that we require a specific amount of fiber for normal elimination is neglected. In English terms, if you don't get enough fiber, you're going to have a gut ache of note. And if your gut isn't happy, you are not happy. If anybody has ever experienced stomach ache, you will know what I mean. Problems with elimination cause a degree of suffering and discomfort unmatched by virtually anything else. Jim McAfee talks about a relative of theirs who went across to, I think it was Japan, and took a handful of psyllium husk, dry psyllium husk, and swallowed it, and then made the almost fatal error of drinking water. Well, if you know what happens to dry fiber, when it gets wet, it expands. This gentleman had this little experience on the Japanese subway. He was in extreme discomfort for some time, and even worse, being in a foreign country. He was too nervous to go to any of the hospitals. Fortunately, he survived, but it could have been quite drastic. And I've heard of some quite nasty torture weapons or torture manners that used to happen in the world wars with rice and water. And I'll let your imagination take it from there. Elimination is such an important aspect of health that some laboratories devote considerable resources to collection and analysis of stool samples. And you'll quite often have labs that, if you're ever in hospital, come and take not just blood samples and urine samples, but also stool samples, because you can tell so much from that. Analytical stool examination indicates adequate digestion as well as the presence of undesirable parasites and microbes. As we know, there's a lot of bacteria in our gut, some good, some bad. We want the good ones, not the bad ones. Constipation is an infrequent elimination and straining at the stool. Constipation means that you haven't gone for a day or two. And those of you who have suffered from this will know how extremely uncomfortable it can get when it backs up and is not coming out. Constipation sets the stage for other health problems, such as varicose veins, hiatus hernia, and diverticulosis. And we covered diverticulosis and diverticulitis a little while back when we covered the gut and the digestive system. And constipation is one of those things that causes this problem. And varicose veins, and this is varicose veins, is things that I work with on a very regular basis. And it was only when I found this book that I realized that varicose veins and constipation were connected. Constipation is almost unheard of in primitive people on natural diets, but is one of the most frequent health complaints in the USA. Think of the different diets, and that'll tell you why. Nearly everyone eating refined foods experiences the problem at some stage. If you're not getting enough roughage in your system, you are going to have a backup of note. The most common cause of constipation is lack of fiber, because fiber is nature's broom. And if you ever look at a house that has been neglected and hasn't been swept out for a while, you've got a backup of dust and all sorts of funny things. And we have a pretty similar thing in our gut. Not a very pleasant thought to think about, but facts are fact. Muscles of the small intestine and stage colon require bulk to act upon, my spelling over there leaves what to be desired, or squeeze in order to establish normal elimination. And that would be something similar to a balloon. One of the therapies I tell patients who've had a stroke, for instance, or who've had hand injuries and they need to start to exercise their hand, is you take two balloons and you fill the inner one with something like cake flour, and you can massage it. Now, think of that sort of thing. So if you ever had a blob of clay or blob of press stick or even putty in your hands and you've massaged it, that is one feeling. And then think of a balloon that has been blown up and you massage that. And think of a balloon that hasn't been blown up and you massage that. Now that is how our gut is working. So it needs a good amount of bulk in the colon for that manipulation and squeezing to be working really well. The average American or Briton or South African consumes about 8 grams of fiber daily, compared to about 25 grams of fiber in a high roughage diet. And we need, according to the research, we're needing between 25 to 28 grams of fiber on a daily basis. If you're diabetic, you can up that to about 32 grams of fiber on a daily basis. If you're having a very refined diet, you're getting 8 grams or less. Scary thought. An often overlooked factor in constipation or chronic diarrhea, which is the opposite extreme, is lack of proper bacteria in the digestive tract. As I said, we've got good and bad bacteria. Bad bacteria, if anybody's ever experienced food poisoning, that was the bad bacteria. It's not pleasant because your body wants to get rid of that stuff as fast as possible in whichever way it can. As I said, this is a messy talk tonight, because if you've had food poisoning before, you know what it's like. I've experienced it a couple of times. It's not fun. And I must say that having experienced a bit of diarrhea every so often, not very often, fortunately, not since I started using Neolife, but during COVID, there was one day that I had the start of a touch of diarrhea. 2 acidophilus took care of that in an extremely short period of time. Even I was surprised how quickly and how effectively it worked. About 2/3 of the stool volume is fiber, and 1/3 consists of microorganisms. And that is nature's way of breaking things down. Again, I'll get back to that example of a septic tank. If you have a septic tank for your toilet system, that is where bacteria breaks things down. If we use too much care in our septic tank, care is very effective and it kills off the microorganisms, the good ones. Your septic tank will back up. You will have a problem. So we need the good bacteria and good microorganisms to help to break down that stool, even once it's out of our system. Nature is an amazing thing. The bacteria in the digestive tract not only provides bulk, but also breaks down fiber into butyrate, which is the primary nourishment of the cells lining the colon. As you know, our body consists of about 73 trillion cells. So I'm told, I haven't ever counted them. But those cells, while on a basis, as a basic model, is the same, each cell is different. So your hair cells are different to your skin cells, to your nail cells, to your colon cells, or to your gut cells, to all your cells are different, but they all need nourishment. If you think of a cell as a body, it needs food and it needs to be able to get rid of the waste. We all know our cell pictures that we use when we explain to people how TreeNN works. Your healthy cell, your not so healthy cell. Think of that. Think of your digestive system along the same way. Insufficient secretion of stomach acid, which is a consequence of the use of antacids, malnutrition, or aging, may contribute not only to constipation, but also a malfunctioning pancreas and gallbladder. Another couple of conditions that I see usually in hospital more often than I would like to see. Constipation may also be the result of a lack of certain nutrients. Our bodies are amazing little machines, extremely well balanced, and they need everything in the correct manner and the correct amounts. And we can't compete with nature, so we just have to give it everything that it needs and it will help itself to whatever it needs. But if you don't give it the correct nutrients, it cannot function correctly. It would be like putting water in your car's petrol tank or diesel in a petrol tank. It's not going to work. You have to give the correct nutrients and the right amounts of nutrients for things to work correctly. B vitamins, specifically pantothenic acid, and minerals like magnesium are necessary to produce energy by the muscles of the digestive tract. Without these nutrients, the digestive tract muscles lose tone. Think about somebody who used to go to gym and doesn't go to gym anymore. And when you lose tone, the muscles won't contract efficiently, and this leads to constipation because we have what they call a peristaltic action. So when you put in food or water in the mouth, it goes through and gets pushed through almost like a snake. If you've ever watched a snake slithering, it moves continuously. And our gut, for want of any better description, works like a snake. It's moving almost on like a little conveyor belt with tiny little hairs on the inside of the gut, moving the food through and getting it working. If those little hairs are not getting nutrients that it needs, or the fluid that it needs, or the fiber that it needs, it's going to stop. Think of a conveyor belt that is running along smoothly and then suddenly stops. There's a backup of things coming along on the back. If you've ever flown before and you see those luggage racks coming through, what happens if somebody hits the emergency button and all the suitcases stop? There's a problem. Or, heaven forbid, one of the suitcases gets stuck and the conveyor belt is still trying to move and the other cases are coming along, you have constipation of note on the luggage tract. Same goes with our gut. The digestive system, from this little picture you can see, starts with the mouth, goes down through the throat, throughout the stomach, through the small and large intestines, getting processed all the way down until it comes up the other end. Both magnesium and vitamin C are often excellent natural laxatives for constipation. Obviously, we also have stage 6, which we will talk about just now. And you'll see the warnings with vitamin C is, you're overdosing when you suddenly get diarrhea. When you hit that, cut back on your vitamin C. Large amount of vitamin C create a flush of the digestive tract, while smaller amounts may aid normal elimination. Once again, too much of anything is bad for you. Too much water, bad for you. Too much oxygen is bad for you. We can't live without either one of those things. So we need the vitamin C, but too much can cause problems. The muscle contractions of the intestines work most efficiently on a moist mass of material. So if you're not drinking enough fluids and the content of your gut dries out, you're going to have problems. A common mistake made when adding fiber to the diet is the failure to consume adequate water or fluids with it. And this leads to the fiber drying out in the digestive tract. And that can have sometimes quite disastrous consequences. We need to spread the fiber intake throughout the day rather than consuming large quantities at one time. Again, that can cause a blockage. So you can have a backup in the small intestine or large intestine. Wherever your blockage is, you're going to have an issue. And the way that they can check for this, and this is the scary part, I'm seeing on our theatre slates almost daily, the doctors are doing scopes. And they'll either push a camera down from the top, or they'll push a camera up from the bottom, or both, so they can see exactly what's happening throughout your gut. Most of that is not necessary to put yourself through that extremely uncomfortable procedure if you're having enough fiber. Because the reason for the cameras is to be able to check and see if and where there is a blockage, and if there is a blockage, what is causing it. Any kind of movement or exercise encourages the transit of food through the digestive tract, while an overly sedentary lifestyle contributes to constipation. And by that, think about these people who are about yay big and yay square and sit. If you've got an active imagination like me, sitting in a lazy boy with their feet up in the air, a packet of chips or a sandwich or a hamburger in one hand, a cup of Coke or glass of Coke in the other hand, and that is how they spend 8 to 12 hours of their day, not moving. They are going to have a problem because their gut is not processing things. The movement of muscles and the force of gravity during exercise delicately massages the digestive tract and encourages normal elimination. So we're not talking running comrades, because I think that has the opposite effect, but stroll around your garden, stroll around the shopping center, or if you're fortunate enough to be down at the coast, stroll along the beachfront. It's all that you need to get your body moving, get the muscles moving, and let gravity do all the work. Gravity is our friend in some cases. A slow transit of food through the body permits bacteria in the digestive tract to break down the bile acids. We need the bile to break down the food into smaller particles that your body can absorb. The digestive system is actually quite involved and quite technical, and I won't get into it through this series because it's not necessary to know all the little bits and pieces. If you've got access to an anatomy book, you can learn all about that yourself. Some of these breakdown products include abscolic acid and others, and are amongst the most powerful natural carcinogens, which increases the risk of bowel cancer. So that is why it is so important to get rid of those bad byproducts out of your system, because we should be going regularly to the bathroom every 6 to 12 hours, because whatever's staying in for more than 24 hours is going to cause a problem, be it inflammation, be it infection, or ultimately colon cancer. And cancer is one of those, or specifically colon cancer, which is a particularly nasty, something that is actually comparatively simple to prevent, but quite traumatic to treat. Americans have 13 times more colon cancer than Ugandans who eat a high roughage diet. A simple thing like that can prevent a huge amount of trauma. So the suggestions: add fiber to the diet. And things that contain fiber, you've got your high fiber foods, which is like your wheat pix and all bran flakes and those sort of things. Those are sources of fiber. Peas are a very good source of fiber. Beans, veggies, fresh fruits and veggies all contain very good amounts of fiber, and there are different types of fiber. We do not just have one type of fiber. We have soluble, we have insoluble, we have lignans, we have pectins. There's a whole mess of different types of fibers. And the ideal, as in nature, we need a little bit of all of those that your body can utilize as and when it needs it. And as you know, we've got two very good fiber products. We've got the all-natural fiber, which can be added to porridge, yogurt, cereals, baking, all that sort of thing. And it makes a very, very big difference over there. And consider the possibility of low stomach acid. I can see that I'm going to be having to extend this talk over a couple of weeks because my time is running out and I'm only on the first section of here tonight. But the possibility of low stomach acid, as we said before, comes with age. And if there's not sufficient vitamin B in the system, you're not going to be able to produce sufficient stomach acid. We need to drink adequate water. We're needing to drink about 2 liters of water a day. There are charts available to tell you exactly how much you need to drink according to your body weight. But basically, play it by ear. And what I do when I go to work during the day, I take a 1 liter flask of water with me to work. And my goal is to have that empty by the time I go home. So every time I wash hands, I have a glass of water. If I have a cup of coffee in the morning, I have a cup of water. Go to the bathroom, you have a cup of water. And that way it's easier to get your proper intake of water throughout the day. And we need to use an acidophilus product periodically. Liz Geertz likes to say that according to the research, they tell you to have a bottle of acidophilus on your birthday. So basically once a year, you buy yourself a bottle of acidophilus, go through that over a period of 30 to 60 days, and your gut bacteria should be good for another 12 months. And we have one of the most potent acidophilus products on the market because of everything that's in there. And as I said, I have personally experienced how effective and efficient this is over an incredibly short period of time, less than an hour. So use it. We need to use a multiple vitamin and mineral product to obtain all the nutrients necessary for providing energy to the muscles lining the digestive tract. And I think we know which is one of the best ones available, Formula 4. Right, I'm going to stop that there for now. We've got about 7 minutes left. And does anybody have any testimonies to do with constipation or having used acidophilus themselves? What's your stories? Have you had problems, and have you been able to overcome them by adding extra fiber to your diet? Little things like that. So has anybody got any stories for us? Please unmute yourself and go ahead. Linda?
Just a very quick one on stage 6 for like emergency treatment. There was a lady many years ago in our church who was complaining that she's so constipated and that she gets these terrible cramps when she used the Senocot that she bought from some chemist or somewhere. I think many people know that name. And I offered her the stage 6 and she took it and she was over the moon. She says, Linda, it works absolutely fantastic and no cramping. So that was wonderful. And after a long while, she says she's more regular. So I don't know. I lost contact with her. She was old and they moved away. And then just I want to quickly say that what helps with constipation, or just to help to keep you regular, is fruit at night, just before you go to bed. An apple or a pear or even an orange and grapes or maybe 2 fruits. I eat 100% rye bread, and you know, there's no refinement there, and it's nice when you toast it. And yeah, that's fruit before bedtime. I've often heard that it helps people, but it really helps me. So we can do, apart from the supplements, I'm not taking any fiber or anything, and I'm more regular than I think anybody can be. And I think it's just the way you eat. I don't eat white breads and things like that, and etc., all the things you mentioned. But that fruit before bedtime is good. And just remember that our stage 6, if somebody takes it, there's no cramping. People are afraid of cramping. She took quite a lot, because I told her 5 or 6. Those days we all said 5 or 6. But yeah, so I thought I'll share that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. And I know with babies, one of the things that is often prescribed for constipation there as well, and this usually happens more with bottle-fed babies than breastfed babies, is jelly. If you give them jelly, that helps to keep them regular as well. And it's a little bit less traumatic than some of these other things where you've got to stuff enemas up and all sorts of fun things like that. Anybody else have any stories on constipation, maybe problems that they've developed as a result of constipation?
Oh, people get piles, right?
Yes. And piles is really just another form of varicose veins. It's varicose veins in a different area.
Oh, there are so many complaints of people, and that's from constipation, I guess.
Correct. Correct. Jenny?
I'm not with the constipation side, but I discovered acidophilus when I had terrible indigestion. My poor husband thought I was dying with indigestion. I, in fact, went unconscious from indigestion, and I was introduced to near-life acidophilus, and I had a couple of bottles until I realized I didn't need it on a regular basis. So it stays in my fridge, and once in a very big blue moon, if I've had too much whatever, I have an acidophilus, and then I'm fine again. But that acidophilus stopped the indigestion, and I'm sure that's got everything to do with the digestive tract, because I'm the worst water baby on this earth. I don't drink my water. I don't drink 1 glass a day, let alone 1 liter a day.
You have to work on that. All right. Yeah, that actually drinking the water helps tremendously with the indigestion as well as the constipation, because it's diluting acid. Yeah.
Sean, can I ask something quickly?
Go for it. Yeah.
Sorry, quick one. You mentioned acidophilus once in a while, like you take a bottle or 2 and whatever, and it's fine. I must say, I put my bottle in the fridge and I cannot forget about it. I take all my other things, and because it's in the fridge and I don't always see it, I take it once in a while. I said, oh, I haven't had any of this week, maybe once a week, or maybe sometimes a bit longer. So obviously I'm not doing the wrong thing, because you say, take a thing and then you don't need to take it all the time. So I'm not doing the wrong thing. It's not something you need to take all the time then.
No, you will know when you need to take it. I also keep mine in the fridge as an emergency. And anytime that you feel bloated, you've had a heavy meal, birthday parties or Christmas and that sort of thing, you have this sudden build-up, and then I'll take one just to help. Or if I had a really, very big meal for supper, I'll have an acidophilus, and that gets me through the night, and I'm okay again. But yeah, I don't take it regularly.
Okay, so great. So
acidophilus is excellent for that.
Yeah. Norma, you wanted to
very
ask?
good. Thank you. All right.
Yeah,
Also to stop diarrhea.
I agree with what Jenny was saying about the indigestion. I sometimes have a problem if I've had different food to what I usually do. This I like to have a lot of vegetables and stuff, and if I don't have too many vegetables and I have lots of meat, for instance, then I tend to get a bit of indigestion. And I find if I take some aloe vera with the acidophilus, sorts it out. It's fabulous.
Perfect. Yeah.
I also don't take it all the time. I take it when I need it, basically.
An excellent combination that. And as we go through, so we're about to wrap up over here now. So as you've all experienced, if your gut isn't happy, you are feeling extremely uncomfortable. And yeah, it can cause a major problem and become a medical emergency. So be careful. Be careful of what you're eating, when you're eating, how you're eating, because as I started off, what goes in must come out. You don't want it to take up residence in there. And if it takes up residence, it's going to cause problems. So that's us for tonight. Thank you very much. I know I'm going to be having to spill this over for possibly a couple more weeks because I think this is a very, very important subject as well. And it's going to show that the gut and the digestion plays a vital role in a lot of issues that we've got. So tomorrow evening, we have a business presentation specifically aimed at the youth. Please come along, join us. And I will see you again on Sunday evening and back here again next week, Tuesday. Thanks, everybody.